Hey guys, it's Drew. In this week's episode, we sit down with LA gun shop owner Bill Mullan. Great guy. I've gotten to know pretty well over the last few months. COVID in America, a lot of people are running around in circles trying to hoard toilet paper. There's a lot of people who are looking to buy guns while they're still available, and in many places they're not. The shelves are empty. I've seen it myself.
You've heard about toilet paper and bread. People are buying what they think that they'll need, and that now includes guns and ammunition.
Go ahead. Make my day.
The people who work in these shops say they have never seen a gun run quite like this.
So stay tuned. Be sure to click on the subscribe button for future videos. Talking about Cap Tactical, which is your gun shop in Lawndale, California. Been a bit busy lately?
It's starting to slow down since we're running out of things to sell, but it's been a hell of a month.
Was there like a gradual build over a few days or a few weeks back in March? Or was it, this one day where boom, everything just hit and the lines were around the corner?
It went from 0 to 100 in about a day.
And did you expect that at all? Did you think there was something coming?
Crisis always escalates people's emotions, but I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was like sometime around the middle of March, I started to drive to Turner's just because that was the place I had known about. It was more obvious. It was absolutely obscene. It was a madhouse. And someone taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey man, go to Cap Tactical down the street. He's still got some really cool stuff in stock. And, it's more of a professional gun shop." And so I went there, and that's when I met you and the crew and picked up my first firearm of the season, so to say, 10 days later.
It's just a simple pull and release.
And why is that on this particular AR-15 that you have that?
This fixed mag system allows you to use the pistol grip, have a collapsible stock, a vertical foregrip, and a standard A2 flash hider.
Was there a certain type of firearm, certain category that was higher, at least in request, whether you were able to fulfill it or not?
Well, everyone seems to know what a Glock is from TV and movies, and that the price point on a Glock is pretty much, affordable for the average person.
I can wholeheartedly endorse the new breed of Austrians. Glock 34 and 26. Recontoured grips, flared magwell for easier reloads, and I know you'll appreciate the custom porting. What's next?
So yeah, probably Glocks, which we haven't had a Glock in a week, and when we get them in, they go same day,
So handguns, Glocks are handguns. So handguns versus long guns, shotguns, rifles. You'd say more people wanted handguns.
Shotguns sold out first, then ARs. Of course, we had 40 times more handguns than we did shotguns and ARs. A lot more, shelf space since handguns are smaller, so we had a lot more of those than we could the long guns. But we sold out of shotguns first, then ARs, then most every handgun and revolver, and now we're just slim pickings on everything until the next shipment comes in. But that's the thing, there's nothing out there to order.
So the manufacturers who supply the gun shops are running low at this point, or maybe already have, correct?
They don't have anything. So distributors are waiting to get this or that in. They get such a small quantity, it's allocated, it doesn't just go into the system and we can just log on and start buying stuff like we normally do. We have to hope that our representative at that particular distributor got something and he wants to give it to us. So I'm a little bit blessed. All my distributors seem to really like me, so they offer me everything. I just take whatever they get that's good for California.
You did mention ARs and shotguns. ARs, for people who don't know, who are watching, are semi-automatic rifles. Shotguns being in such demand everywhere. Why do you think that is? Just perception for home defense, easiest to operate for newer users? What's your take on that?
Shotguns over the AR, but shotgun because it's pump action. People have it in their head that they hear that click click sound and all the bad guys run away. They're under the perception you don't have to aim a shotgun, again, which isn't true, but I guess you have a better chance of getting contact with that than you would a handgun if you're going to decide to not aim. But I mean, I guess it's just TV and movies. You know, you pull the trigger of a shotgun, 8 guys in the movies fall down. So
I think that's one of the concerns that comes up, is just that, you know, people who may be, you know, running out to buy firearms for the first time just are so inexperienced in their own world, but hopefully they're doing whatever they can, to your point, to train themselves.
So this will hold up to 10 rounds, and then you just detach, and then you can reload it. You can have extra magazines, which for a shotgun is, you know, kind of cool different feature, instead of having to load a certain amount at a time.
What was the combination? Was it mostly new gun owners? Was it, you know, people who already owned multiple firearms who were adding? What were you seeing those in the original days?
I mean, we always have our regulars that come in just because they're looking for something, a new toy. I don't know why this particular pandemic issue is, you know, tied to the end of the world, but that's what it seems like. Everyone who's never wanted a gun, was never allowed to by their spouse, they're all coming in saying, my wife said I can have a gun now. So, you know, we try to push training on them, but of course, I don't know how much training they can get done right now.
Yeah, well, I noticed, I mean, just being there myself, and I was in line for quite a long time, you know, I did not see anything at all slipping or being less firm as far as, you know, taking the test, identification. I saw quite a few people getting rejected for whatever it was, whether they had a restricted license. I think if the DOJ kicked it back. So I saw that you guys in most gun shops that I saw were really being as rigid as ever, and that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, the laws don't change. We have to do it doesn't matter the scenario, the laws are the same. So
did you see a higher percentage at all of people that were being rejected, or was it just in line with the overall higher numbers?
Honestly, with the increased number of people, it only slightly increased for denials. Yeah. So, you know, let's say sales went up 300%, denials didn't. So, you know, at least for me, that makes me feel good.
And I don't know if that's a real number you throw. I was going to ask you that. I know that.
I actually don't have a real number for that. It's really hard to tell, but I mean, it was a giant jump.
Obviously, California is always one of the more challenging states when it comes to guns and general regulations. But specifically, one of the things that created a lot of extra, I guess, anxiety and maybe an additional rush on the stores is that in LA County specifically, there's been a lot of back and forth on, can the gun stores stay open? Are they going to be required to close? I think at one point there was an order where it did have to close or ordered to close. Tell me about what that has been like and where we're at now. What's the history?
I mean, it was, honestly, at this point, I forget. It was either 2 or 3 times. They closed us. They allowed us to open. They closed us. They were forcing gun stores closed. We actually voluntarily closed. We weren't going to wait for the sheriff department to come down and close us. We voluntarily closed. We did stay open just to deliver firearms and ammunition for customers that had cleared the background check. So we were closed for sales, but we were delivering everything that was legally purchased and lawfully obtained. Which, I mean, what does that mean? It means I'm keeping my doors open and paying my guys to just deliver stuff. So, but that's, you know, that's the community service part. So we serve our community.
Yeah. But where was the back and forth on that? Because it does seem a little unusual, and it is all Second Amendment, where you would think from essential to non-essential, the fact that the general public was concerned, wanted primarily home protection, it seemed an unusual call to, in that moment, I believe it was the sheriff of LA County who issued that the gun stores have to close. That created more anxiety and panic and people rushing all over. Seems like the opposite. Like this is the time where people would consider this essential.
Well, I mean, at that point, they couldn't rush anywhere because everyone was closed. But yeah, it did create more anxiety. I mean, we had a sign on our door with Gavin Newsom's office number, email, same thing for the mayor, the sheriff. And we just had a message, requesting our customers to politely email and call and disagree with the fact that we were considered non-essential. People's defense of their own life and liberty is obviously not a non-essential thing. It's as essential as you can get.
Yeah, and I think I think I could be wrong. I would think it was a city attorney, or I don't know all the inner politics. It was back and forth, but it did kind of become somewhat political, where certain LA County officials overruled the sheriff, and I think they found some level of balance where
they took the sheriff out of the lead role for that. I mean, the sheriff was threatening, withholding license renewals for any shops that stayed open. Retaliation to that extent. So, but they took him out of that role. And then basically it was still his opinion we're non-essential. They were leaving it up to local sheriff departments to go and physically close. So I believe that they actually were in like Culver City, areas like that. I think they shut down all the Burbank gun shops.
Most people in firearm stores like yourself are armed and carrying openly as in that environment. And they're pretty much harder and stricter on anyone who walks in the door than you can imagine. So you're among the highest self-regulated and government regulated. I don't know of any other industries that is more so. And I think one of the things that I've seen that's been, indicative of that is that on your own, a lot of the gun shops have said appointment only, just to avoid crowds of people too close to each other, setting up mandatory social distancing within stores.
I mean, again, you've been in our shop since, so you see there's signs outside, there's signs inside, there's tape spaces on the floor. People walk in and we look up and say, if you don't see a green area to stand on, you need to wait outside.
Yeah.
Left side's one thing, right side's the other. I mean, It's not just to keep the customers safe. I need to keep my guys safe. I need to stay safe.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I will say that one of the things I noticed is probably a month ago, probably the last time I was in your shop, and I really took notice on this, where you had mandatory masks required for anyone who walked in to pick anything up, to ask a question, anything. And after I left
for a gun shop.
Well, but I have to say, after that, I had to stop at a local grocery store and pick something up for my kids, and the grocery stores were not requiring that. And I think, again, I'm not being critical of any specific grocery store. They're doing the best they can with their employees, but the fact that a gun store is requiring people to wear masks to come in, and grocery stores with such mass population coming in were not at that time. Now they all are. So again, I think it speaks to it's not a bunch of renegade people, trying to sell, Glocks.
We're just trying to be proactive.
How is California, for people watching, perhaps more strict or stringent than other states in general? Obviously, we have the 10-day wait period.
I mean, we're actually not the strictest. New York is more strict. Chicago. We just have the most overlapping or redundant laws. So it's just, we have the most confusing laws. I think we have the most laws on book than any state. I think the last time I looked, it was like 98 or 96 firearm related laws, whereas some states will have a paragraph. We have pages, and they just overlap each other, and they're just, this law says this says the same thing, but changes like a word. It just makes it hard to actually follow the law for people trying to do their best.
Yeah, and sometimes where that may come into effect is, as far as the legality of certain types of firearms and what is required and whether it's a barrel length or stock or what is going into it, and you're trying to interpret it. But is that really where that also comes into effect and creates some confusion for the general public?
It does. People don't understand our roster of approved handguns. They don't understand the difference between what's a feature, what's not a feature when it comes to a semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine. So they don't, they look at something, they go, oh, it has 10 rounds, it's California compliant. And it's, that's only one of the items that makes it California compliant. So they're just confused when buying.
I know you mentioned it's starting to ease up a little bit, and that may very well be tied to the fact that there's simply not much inventory left or ammo, so that kind of supply and demand. Do you think that COVID-19 and everything that we've seen in the last month or two with the surge and the increase in firearm sales, do you think that is a short-term trend that goes away if a vaccine is found tomorrow, if the virus lifts in the spring or summer? Or do you think that this has perhaps changed and reshaped a lot of people's plans and how they might choose to protect themselves or their homes in the future going forward?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. You have these people that blindly vote anti-gun, but now they needed one and they realize how hard it is to get a gun, how hard it is to get ammunition, how limited we are in what we can have. I think a certain percentage of those people will continue to have that ingrained in their minds for future events. And then I just think there's just the self-absorbed that are just going to go, well, I got my gun, so I don't care. I think I just think that's the area we live in. So I think there's going to be a lot of both.